On my birthday dinner, my millionaire grandpa leaned in and said, "So, how's the company doing with the startup capital I sent you?" I shook my head. "What startup capital?" He turned slowly toward my parents, who sat frozen. His smile vanished. "Then who took it?" "They almost ruined my wedding." That should say enough. My parents argued with the venue manager the night before because they didn't like the table placements, even though Olivia and I had made the seating chart ourselves. My mom cried because her name wasn't in the program more than once. My dad made a passive-aggressive toast that ended with some weird comment about how marriage is a job like any other, except you can't quit. And Rachel, my sister, wore white. Not a floral dress with some white in it, an actual white gown. When Olivia's cousin asked her why, Rachel said she didn't think it mattered because the dress was expensive. I should have known right then what they were capable of. But I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt, mostly because I didn't want to accept the truth. That I was born into a family where selfishness wasn't an exception, it was the rule. So when Grandpa said he was flying in for my 26th birthday and wanted to take us all out to dinner, I had mixed feelings. He was the only person in the family I actually trusted. Sharp, quiet, and way more observant than people gave him credit for. He'd made his fortune in logistics, sold the company when I was in high school, and had been semi-retired ever since, bouncing between Arizona, Maine, and random places that had good hiking trails. We met at this upscale Italian place downtown. Linen tablecloths, waiters and ties, the kind of place where every plate is oversized and the food is microscopic. Olivia and I got there early. She squeezed my hand before we walked in. "Let's just make it through tonight," she said. My parents arrived late. Rachel even later. Her excuse was traffic, though I'd seen on her Instagram story that she stopped for a bubble tea selfie. Once everyone was seated, they started doing what they always do when Grandpa's around, putting on a show. My mom fawned over the wine list. My dad cracked jokes about the good old days, when he was head of the house. Rachel made a big deal of saying she had something huge in the works, but couldn't talk about it yet. It was exhausting. I didn't expect anything from the night. I thought maybe we'd fake our way through another family dinner. Grandpa would give a short toast, the bill would come, and we'd all go home pretending everything was fine. I didn't expect him to say what he said. The waitress had just brought the dessert menus. Grandpa leaned forward, looked directly at me, and smiled. "So, how's the company doing with the startup capital I sent you?" I froze. "What startup capital?" For the first time all night, no one was performing. My dad's smile cracked, just slightly. My mom blinked twice. Rachel dropped her fork. Grandpa turned his head slowly toward them. "Then who took it?" It was quiet. Like church quiet. I couldn't think. I had told Grandpa about my idea months ago. A small web-based logistics service focused on local vendors. I mentioned it in passing, almost as a thought experiment. He'd seemed interested. I figured he was just being polite. I never asked for money. I never wanted to. Because asking in my family meant owing. Turns out he'd sent $40,000 to help me get it off the ground. He didn't say it loud. He didn't accuse anyone directly. He just asked the question and let the silence stretch. No one answered. My dad looked like he was trying to do math in his head. My mom glanced down at her purse, as if the answer might be hiding inside. Rachel picked up her wine and sipped it like nothing was happening. That was when it clicked. They hadn't just borrowed it. They hadn't just misused it. They'd hidden it. They knew what that money was for, and they took it anyway. When we left the restaurant, Grandpa didn't say much. But before I got in the car with Olivia, he touched my arm and said, "Meet me at the hotel tomorrow morning. We need to talk." He didn't look angry. He looked like someone who had just finished watching the final piece of a puzzle slide into place. I knew something had changed. I just didn't know how much. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, at least, not just because of that, but because everything I thought I understood about my family had just collapsed in the middle of a birthday dinner. I'd spent years convincing myself they were just self-centered, not malicious. That they were flawed, but still family. And yet there I was, 26 years old, sitting in a hotel lobby the next morning, waiting to find out how far their selfishness really went. Grandpa came down a few minutes after 9, same as always, button-down shirt, cargo pants, hiking boots like he was ready to head into a canyon right after breakfast. He handed me a coffee without saying a word and gestured toward the street. We walked around the block. Quiet part of town, barely any traffic. He kept his eyes on the sidewalk when he spoke. 2 months ago, I sent $40,000 to your dad, he said. It was for you. I told him not to make it a big deal, just to get it into your hands quietly. I didn't want to embarrass you by making it look like a handout. I stopped walking. He sent it through my dad. Not even a heads up. Not a single word to me. And suddenly it made sense. Why Rachel had been flashing a new iPhone in her Instagram stories a few weeks ago. Why my mom had casually mentioned a spa weekend. Why my dad had been extra smug at dinner that one night talking about liquidity. They took it. They didn't hesitate. They didn't tell me. They didn't even bother to make up a lie to cover it. Grandpa turned to me. I figured you'd say something by now. When you didn't, I knew. He handed me a folded slip of paper. At first, I thought it was a receipt or a note, but it was a bank statement. A new account. My name on it. $15,000. That's yours, he said. I'm not asking questions. You can build something with it or burn it trying. I don't care what you do, just that you do it your way. I asked him what he was going to do about the money they took. He didn't answer. He just shook his head once and said, "You know, your dad asked for that money with a straight face. Said you were nervous about approaching me directly. That you wanted him to manage it. I gave it to him because I thought maybe he was trying to repair something. But now I see I was giving him a chance he didn't earn." He turned toward the hotel entrance and paused. "I wanted to see if you were different. You are. That's all I needed." Then he walked inside. I didn't go home that day. I called Olivia and told her everything. She didn't act surprised. She just asked, "What are you going to do now?" I didn't know. But something had changed. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the fact that they never even considered that I might find out. They didn't care. They didn't think I mattered enough to protect the lie. And they were about to realize that the moment they buried their trust with me, they lit the fuse under everything they thought they controlled. I didn't go home for 3 days after that hotel meeting. I stayed in the same downtown room where I checked in the night Grandpa gave me the account details. I couldn't bring myself to walk back through my parents' front door, past the kitchen they remodeled with stolen money, or sit on the couch where they'd once lectured me about being financially responsible. I thought maybe they'd try to lie their way out of it. What I didn't expect was how fast everything would come crashing down once Grandpa made his move. It started small. My mom called twice that first night and left voicemails that sounded more confused than apologetic. My dad sent a series of messages pretending to be calm, like we were just having a little disagreement. He asked if we could meet, clear the air, and that it was important not to make rash decisions. He never once denied taking the money. Rachel sent me a single message. "Really? You're turning him against us?" No mention of what they did. No explanation. Just that I was the problem now. I didn't respond. Not to any of them. 3 days later, Grandpa called. "I've taken care of my end," he said. "Let them figure out theirs." And just like that, the unraveling began. He shut everything off. Quietly, precisely, and without warning. The family gas card, gone. It had always been in Grandpa's name. The one they used every week without thinking. My mom tried to use it at the pump and ended up calling the bank, thinking it was fraud. Property taxes? Grandpa had been covering those for over a decade without ever bragging about it. He stopped. Rachel's career fund that Grandpa had set up after she dropped out of her second college, frozen. The yoga studio she'd been talking about opening with investors turned out to be a fantasy fueled by his monthly transfers. He told me later he didn't even confront them. He just let the money disappear. Let the silence speak for itself. The reaction was immediate. My mom called in tears. She begged me to talk to Grandpa for them. Said he was misunderstanding everything, and that maybe someone made a mistake with the money. She wouldn't say who. Just kept using vague words like mix-up and confusion. I told her exactly what I told Grandpa. That I never saw a cent. That I didn't even know he'd sent anything. She didn't say another word. Hung up. That same night, Rachel messaged Olivia. "Not me, Olivia." She said I'd set them up, accused her of being fake, and tried to guilt-trip her into talking to me on their behalf. Olivia blocked her immediately. I stayed out of sight. I kept my head down and got to work. With the $15,000 Grandpa gave me, I bought what I actually needed. Web hosting, back-end tools, licensing, basic branding. It wasn't a flashy start, but it was mine. I freelanced on the side to keep money coming in and moved in with Olivia for a while. She didn't ask for rent. She knew I wouldn't stay long, just long enough to build something stable. Meanwhile, the tension at home kept growing. I got a message from one of my dad's old colleagues, someone I'd interned for the summer after college. He said things were strained. That my dad had lost a few networking perks that Grandpa used to smooth over with calls and favors. And it hit me, this wasn't just about the money. It was about access. About legacy. They hadn't just stolen $40,000. They'd stolen trust. And now it was gone. The silence from Grandpa was loud enough. And the consequences were just beginning. 2 weeks passed after Grandpa cut them off, and they kept quiet longer than I expected. It was like they were regrouping. Trying to figure out whether to lie, guilt trip, or act like nothing happened at all. I wasn't sure which angle they'd take first, but I knew it wouldn't be silence forever. They just needed time to decide who would make the first move. It ended up being my mom. She showed up unannounced at Olivia's apartment on a Tuesday morning. No warning. Just a knock on the door while I was sitting at the kitchen table debugging my site. Olivia opened it and stepped back like she wasn't surprised, just annoyed. She's here. With food. I walked to the door. My mom was standing there with a Tupperware container like that was going to erase everything. She gave me a smile like we were still a normal family. Like we weren't standing in the aftermath of a lie. Hi, sweetheart. Thought I'd bring you something to eat. I figured you've been busy. I didn't let her in. I stepped outside. She stood in the hallway holding that container like it was a peace offering, like I was the one who'd overreacted. She started soft. That was her style, warm, nostalgic, harmless. Said she missed me. Asked how work was going. Said she'd heard I was doing something exciting. Said she and Dad were so proud. I let her talk. Then came the shift. She said things were tight now. That Grandpa had made some sudden decisions and cut them off without explanation. She said they were behind on bills, that Rachel had to cancel a planned trip to California, and that my dad was stressed all the time. And then she looked me in the eye and said, "We know the money situation got a little confusing. But it was never meant to hurt you. We used it to take care of some things while you figured out what direction you wanted to go." Like they had been safeguarding it for me. Like I had wandered off and they just kept the money warm until I came back. She started building this narrative, carefully, piece by piece. That it wasn't theft. That it was family logistics. That Grandpa didn't understand the bigger picture. You know how he is, he's generous, but impulsive. He reacts emotionally. I finally asked her one thing. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" She hesitated. For a split second. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. "We didn't want to overwhelm you. You've always had a sensitive side." That was when I saw it clearly, how they justified everything. How they made their betrayals sound like protection. She set the Tupperware down on the floor like it was some kind of parting gift. Before she turned to leave, she said, "If you just talk to him, make him understand that we're a family, maybe we can get back to normal." Normal. Like this wasn't normal for them. The next day, Rachel messaged Olivia. Not me, Olivia. She went straight for manipulation, accusing her of turning me against the family. She said I was acting out of character. That this wasn't who I really was. Olivia showed me the messages and blocked her. She didn't even respond. Then my dad called. Unknown number. I picked up, curious to see what his strategy would be. He sounded calm. Rehearsed. Said he wanted to talk. Man to man. He said the money thing had gotten blown out of proportion, and that he'd only done what any father would do, manage things, make decisions, protect the family's future. I asked him why he didn't just ask me. Why not tell me what he was doing? He said, "You wouldn't have understood." That kind of responsibility, it's something you learn when you have people depending on you. Then he added something that made my blood run cold. "You're going to be successful, Andrew. Don't let this stupid money ruin your future. Don't alienate your family over a temporary misunderstanding." He ended the call with one last line. "Don't make us your enemies." I stood there holding the phone, staring at the black screen after he hung up. And all I could think was, They already made that choice. This wasn't about misunderstanding. This wasn't about protecting anyone. This was about power. About control. About keeping me small, compliant, grateful. They didn't think I'd ever find out. And now that I had, they didn't think I'd do anything about it. But they were wrong. And for the first time in my life, I didn't owe them a damn thing. The more they tried to pull me back in, the clearer it became that they were losing control. The visits, the texts, the fake concern, it wasn't about rebuilding a relationship. It was about restoring a structure where they had the upper hand. Where I stayed in my place, quiet, predictable, just grateful enough to make their lives easier. But something had shifted in me. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about finally seeing who they were when they weren't getting what they wanted. And the truth wasn't just ugly, it was strategic. Every apology had a hook. Every word of concern came with an expectation. And I stopped giving them anything. I didn't respond to calls. I ignored the social media jabs Rachel started posting, passive-aggressive nonsense about people who let money ruin blood. Olivia saw one and asked if I wanted her to say something. I told her not to bother. Rachel was only trying to get a reaction. Meanwhile, Grandpa and I met once a week. Not formally, just a lunch, a walk, a coffee. But during those talks, he asked me about everything. My ideas, my challenges, the things no one else in my family had ever cared to ask. He didn't hover. He didn't offer solutions I hadn't asked for. He just listened. And when he did speak, he made it count. He told me stories from his early days. Mistakes he made. Partners he shouldn't have trusted. Family members who changed once they saw a dollar sign attached to his name. Then he said this. Money doesn't make people worse. It just shows you who they already are. That line stayed with me. Especially when I found out my dad had started calling around, friends, extended family, even a couple of my old mentors, trying to find out how much Grandpa had given me. He didn't ask directly. He played it like he was. Checking in. Asking if I'd mentioned anything about a new business move. Or big plans. But word got back to me. One guy from my internship days called me up and said, "Your old man's trying real hard to sniff something out. Told me he's worried you're getting in over your head." That's when I knew the jealousy had turned to fear. They weren't just mad I'd gotten something. They were terrified that I might actually succeed without them. That I might build something on my own, with Grandpa's blessing, and leave them behind for good. They were right to be afraid. I kept working. Olivia and I found a small apartment near the city edge, nothing fancy, but quiet, private. She covered the first deposit without blinking. I told her I'd pay her back. She said she knew I would. The launch of my platform was small but solid. A few early clients, good feedback. One surprising lead that looked like it might turn into something long-term. Grandpa didn't interfere. He just checked in. Meanwhile, back at home, things were deteriorating fast. Rachel's Instagram went silent for a while, then suddenly turned into a stream of recycled, motivational quotes about betrayal and fake people. My mom texted me asking for help with a short-term financial issue. I didn't answer. Then one day, Olivia handed me her phone. She looked unsettled. "Your sister just texted me again. She says she knows where we live." That's when I realized desperation had kicked in. They'd lost the money. They'd lost the leverage. And now they were trying to get back in, not through me, but through anyone close enough to me that they thought they could influence. What they didn't know was that the more they pushed, the more they proved why I had to keep them out. And I was done leaving doors open for people who'd already shown me what they were willing to take. The message from Rachel, "I know where you live," wasn't threatening in the legal sense, but it didn't need to be. It was the last card she had, and it said everything. She wanted us to know she wasn't done. That even after being cut off, humiliated, and exposed, she still thought she had some kind of hold on me. I didn't answer her. I didn't even show it to Olivia right away. I just sat with it for a while. Let it settle. Then I sent a screenshot to Grandpa with no message attached. He called me later that night. Not upset. Not even surprised. Just quiet. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this," he said. "But it has." He asked me one thing, "Do you trust me to handle it?" I said yes. 3 days later, everything changed. My parents showed up at Grandpa's place mid-morning, uninvited. They knew where he lived, of course. And from what he told me afterward, they came with a script, an emotional performance, perfectly timed. My mom crying before she even got out of the car. My dad carrying a binder, probably full of fake figures and plans. Rachel waited outside, pretending to be uninvolved, probably still texting Olivia from the driveway. Grandpa didn't yell. He didn't even get angry. He just listened. Then he told them the truth. He said he was done. That the years of funding their lifestyle, cleaning up their messes, and giving them second chances were over. He told them he was updating everything: trust, will, accounts, property. And they weren't in it anymore. He said it calmly. Legally. Finally. But then he added something they weren't expecting. He told them he had a new heir. Those were his words. Not out of spite. Not in anger. Just direct. I've adopted someone new. He meant me. Not legally adopted like a child, but named. Chosen. Replaced them with someone who hadn't stolen from him, lied to him, or treated him like a safety net. Me. He wasn't giving me everything. He had already pledged most of his estate to causes he cared about: scholarships, housing projects, conservation. But what was once meant for them, the fallback cash, the cars, the accounts, the properties, that all went away. And it wasn't just symbolic. He filed the paperwork. Public, notarized, final. I didn't find out until a week later. Grandpa showed up at our place with bagels like he always did. Sat down, sipped his coffee, and casually told me the story while Olivia worked in the kitchen. They came. They begged. I told them no. Then I locked the gate. I didn't ask for any of it. I wouldn't have. But he did it anyway. Not as revenge, he said, but as a correction. They gambled your future. Now they've lost theirs. It wasn't easy to absorb. I never wanted the power to ruin them. But they'd done it themselves. They were never going to admit fault, never going to apologize, never going to change. They tried reaching out one last time after the news spread. My mom sent an email full of faux warmth and empty promises. My dad sent a voicemail with 5 seconds of silence before hanging up. Rachel posted something vague and bitter about greedy people with no loyalty. None of them said what they'd done. None of them asked what they'd lost. They already knew. And I stayed quiet. The business took off faster than I thought. Word of mouth spread, small contracts turned into bigger ones, and I brought on a partner from my old college network. Olivia and I moved again, this time into a real home. Not big, not flashy, but ours. Grandpa visits twice a month. We don't talk about the past much. We don't need to. It's already behind us. And my family? They exist. Somewhere out there. But they don't belong to my present anymore. They closed that door the moment they opened that envelope, saw the money with my name on it, and decided to take it anyway. I just made sure it stayed closed. And I built something better on the other side. It's been 2 months since everything finally blew up, and somehow, life's gotten peaceful. That word used to feel like a fantasy, something people in movies said when they moved to cabins in the woods. But it's real now. Not quiet, not boring, just uncomplicated. The business is doing better than expected. We landed a local logistics contract with a regional vendor that's basically covering our costs for the next 4 months. I hired my first contractor last week. I was nervous at first, wondering if I could manage someone, but it's already made a huge difference. Olivia's been steady as ever. Supportive in ways that don't look flashy, things like managing schedules, keeping me focused when I spin off into what if scenarios, reminding me to actually eat meals. She doesn't gloat, doesn't say I told you so, but I know she saw all this coming way before I did. As for my family, nothing. No calls, no texts, not even one of Rachel's dramatic story posts. It's like they finally understood the message. Or maybe they're just regrouping. I'm not naive. I know people like that don't just change. But I don't worry about it anymore. Grandpa's still around. He's different now, lighter. He stops by sometimes with old books, articles he clipped out, random advice. He asks about my team, my product roadmap, if I'm sleeping enough. He never brings up my parents. I think, like me, he's done talking about people who had every chance and still blew it. The weirdest part? I don't feel angry anymore. I'm just focused. Every day I build something, I get further from who I used to be, waiting for permission, trying to keep the peace, tiptoeing around people who never cared what they broke. That version of me? He's gone. And the door that slammed shut 2 months ago? I haven't looked back once.